Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Sensation Nation. Each week, I come up with amazing topics to talk about and even more amazing people to help me talk about them. I'm going to ask this individual to come on and kind of talk a little bit about how we even know each other in the first place and kind of have him give us a little bit of a rundown of, what he does now and, where he's planning to go in the future. But this week, I want to talk about the subject of perseverance. We hear that word a lot and it's like, oh, you just got to persevere, so on and so forth. But there are a lot of stories out there. When you see people on the surface level, you just see them and you just think they magically got to where they are just based on just luck or will or whatnot. But you don't really get to see some of the things that these people have overcome to be able to get to where they are today. So I bring a topic to you that I think will be helpful for you to be inspired by if you need it, but to also show transparency. We all come from different walks of life, and we all come through and go through different things. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome to Sensation Nation, Dan Cunningham. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Listen, so Dan Cunningham, the man, the myth, the legend, is coming on to help me unpack the subject of perseverance. So first, before we even get started, can you tell the people a little bit about, one, who you are, and two, how we even came to know one another?
Thank you. Grew up in Indiana, joined the Air Force. My parents gave me the ultimatum of, hey, 6 months, you're either out paying for school on your own or you're out getting a job on your own and you're out of our house. I said, okay, I'm going to find option 3. So I joined the Air Force. Met you as a MTL, of course, down in Keesler. And I'll never forget, I was in your office a couple of times. You had that Marine hat behind you and it looked so perfectly starched. And I asked you, I was like, were you a former Marine? You're like, yes, I was. And you terrified me a little bit more that way. I'll be honest. I was like, oh, okay. But I always looked up to you. We had some great MTLs there, but you were always one of our favorites of us students. And then I stumbled across you on LinkedIn, and here we are. My career has been busy. It's been rewarding. Of course, communications back when they were still 2E2s, and then they rolled us over to 3 Deltas. Got picked up to be a recruiter. I like to say that was the best, worst job I ever had, depending on the day of the month or the day of the week. But overall, it was incredibly fun. And then I applied to commission, and 3 tries later, got picked up. I'm an acquisitions officer, but currently I'm an ROTC instructor, which is absolutely the most fantastic job I've ever had. It's wonderful. And I'll be leaving this summer to go back to the acquisitions world. Hopefully last assignment, take the family and retire from Wright-Patterson next.
Very nice. I heard a lot of good stuff in what you just said. Number one, I too have done the ROTC job, and it by far was an extremely rewarding job. And as I mentioned before we started recording here, I still run into former cadets who are now officers in the United States Air Force, and it is surreal to see where they've come from and the things they've overcome to get to where they are as well. I've also heard a little bit about how we started to interact with one another, and you bring me back to my time as an MTL military training leader. In fact, I wore this 338th Dark Knight shirt for you. It's probably anywhere from 15 to 19 years old. It's got paint stains on it, but I don't care because there's a lot of history there. There was a lot of knife handing going on back then, and all that other stuff. I like to tell people that during that time, I hope that I had some purposeful training, tactics and techniques, although they were not desired and probably something that you all looked forward to at that time. It makes me feel
a terrifying
good.
Role model.
A terrifying role model. I like that. It makes me feel good though when I see how you all were able to persevere through some of that tough training, and you become great leaders, you become officers, and all the other stuff. So it makes me really feel good to see that happening. Something else that I heard you say,
Your
though.
BDU crease game was incredible. I remember that as well. As we sat in our dorms and hairsprayed our BDUs and our hats, and we'd be like, "We got to look like Sergeant Sims. I need more hairspray." And you'd be running down the bay looking for more hairspray. And now we wear OCPs, and it's like I just pick it out of the dryer, and here we are.
That's awesome. Hey, listen, I wanted to have sharp knife handing, but I also wanted to have sharp creases as well. I was like, lead by example, man. And it's like I just chuckle every now and then when I run across folks like you, and you guys remind me of stories that most of the time I don't remember. And I'm like, I do that, or I said that, So listen, man, you persevered. You used some of that training back then. You ultimately became an officer, and just like some of your other peers who go on to do great things in the civilian world, or folks that go on to be great leaders, just in general, enlisted leaders, officer leaders, whatever it may be. And one of the things I heard you say, because obviously you and I were both enlisted back then, and it's amazing, right, when you think about it, because now you and I are looking at each other, and now we're both officers. Like, if someone would have come to me back then to say, you and this guy, you guys are going to be officers together one day, I would have been like, what are you talking about? That kind of thing. So I think it's amazing. But what I picked up on that you said was that after 3 times of trying to become an officer, you got in. That is perseverance within itself, is it not?
It is, and it was a lot of paperwork. I can tell you the story of the whole application process, but I'm sure you went through it yourself. It's cross-referencing the different guides that conflict each other and just winging a prayer going into it. It was rough. My first attempt was kind of funny. My recruiter friend had applied the previous board, and neither of us knew what we were doing. And everyone kept telling us go to the education office, but they don't really deal with that anymore whatsoever. They're understaffed and as busy as everybody else. So I was kind of out there on an island. I was in Daytona Beach. My unit was up at Moody at the time. So Patrick was actually closer to me, but they couldn't really help me because I was out of their jurisdiction, right? So I took his package, and it was funny. Neither of us knew what we were doing, and we had like our National Defense Service Medal as a career achievement. And I'm looking at that, and I'm like, they don't care about that. So the first package went through. It was bad, I'll admit. And then I got into the Facebook groups and stuff, and there's just a great network. The folks that want to commission between the Facebook groups and Reddit posts and whatever, what have you, with social media, they're just so helpful. I mean, they had folks out there that were better with data and Excel much more than me. They had every single applicant that provided their package by GPA, AFOQT, pick some, who wrote their push note, the rank of the person that wrote the push note. They had to run a script apparently to look for buzzwords in the letters of recommendation to see what buzzwords were most effective.
Wow.
The amount of help that was given. Yeah, it was wild. That was like walking into a beautiful mind where he's looking at the board, So that was very helpful. I went over to the second board. That package rolled over to a second board. And obviously, bupkis on that as well. It was the same package. I couldn't fix it. So by the third one, I had about 8 months to work on it and really, just pick and choose. And I was looking at the personal statements of my peers. And, this guy is a hard charger, every rank first time. He's a master sergeant. He has everything under the sun. Did not get selected 5 times. There's an A1C over here with a degree that's going to be a pilot. Pick their first time. The rhyme or reason to it, the more you look into it, it can kind of it kind of drives you mad. You don't know what they're looking for, but you just have to keep going. You have to persevere and say, hey, you miss every shot you don't take. I'm going to try again. So the Facebook groups and the peer network I built through there, I still have a lot of dear friends that either did get it or didn't. We'll still talk on Facebook and stuff. So I put the package together the third time, did my interview with my, at the time, group commander. I was still in recruiting. And I shot it off, and I was told, hey, you did so well, you could have got rated or non-rated. I was originally picked up to be an RPA guy, and I was so excited for that. I like to joke. It was just not that right point in my life to go through that kind of stressful training. I guess it looked different in real life than the brochure. So after a week at RPA school, I said, hey, look, perseverance again, but I know this is not for me. And I chose to leave. A funny story about that I could tell if we have time. I ran into one of my recruits who was actually at the Air Force Academy at the time and who had gone through that program. So again, small world, like we were talking. I walked away, and that's how I became a 63A, which ended up itself was not what I originally pictured. But at the end of the day, I wanted the seat at the table, and I've been fortunate enough to get that through a lot of effort, a lot of sleepless nights, waking my friends up, texting them, hey, how do you feel about this line on my personal statement? Because you want to be confident in your ability, but you don't want to seem arrogant.
Right.
And there's a very thin, razor thin gray area where you're like, okay, I don't look pompous, but I look confident.
Yep.
I think I've never used Microsoft Word as aggressively as I did through that process.
Man, you've got a lot of persevering stories, like as a whole. And in a second, I'm going to have you go ahead and just start thinking about it now. But in a second, I'm going to ask you, from your perspective, what does it truly mean to persevere, or what does perseverance mean to you? But before I do that, you and I started communicating a while back through LinkedIn, and we kind of reconnected and whatnot. And at some point, you actually sent me a message, and I'm just going to read a couple of lines from that message. There's more context to it, but what you said in that message to me, you said, "For a kid who grew up in a mobile home with holes in my pants and not a good childhood until I moved in with my dad at 14. The Air Force saved me, and I love it for helping me become a better human, a better man, and providing me a way to learn, lead, and thrive no matter what setbacks I had along the way." And that was like in between some other things that you talked about and some other things you talked about at the end. But to me, that was the middle of that sandwich that actually stood out for me. And I actually took a screenshot of that, and it's been in my photos ever since, because I was like, man, that's pretty powerful. And I think he knows how powerful it is, but maybe he doesn't. And so having you to come on today and just talk about perseverance, even as that example that you gave me, I know that's not the only example, but that is one of the examples you gave me with regard to perseverance. So having said all that, what does it mean from your perspective to persevere?
I think that you go with what your heart wants, and regardless of who may say this isn't for you or tell you how hard it is, you have to go with, I guess, that little voice in your head that tells you this is where you're destined to be. This is what you deserve. This is what you've worked for. And when I joined, I always had romanticized the idea of being an officer and a pilot and all that. And, obviously I looked at the pay scale and thought, okay, that's where I want to be, But there was a lot of times in my career where folks would say, it's too hard, don't bother, or just keep deploying. You're really good at this job. Just keep staying enlisted. Think how good you could be as a senior or something like that later with your knowledge and experience. And I said, well, that's great. And it would be a fantastic honor to be a senior or a chief someday. But I just wanted to chase this dream more so than any other. And there was a lot of setbacks. There's a lot of times that I got, I made mistakes, and I am my own worst enemy, where I don't think before I speak, or I do something foolish or what have you. Like, I'm not perfect by any means. I've made mistakes, many of them. I've learned from them, most of them, some more than others, for sure, I'll tell you. But at the end of the day, for every person that tells you it's too hard, or I had a chief at the time say, well, you have no annual awards, you didn't get below the zone, you didn't make staff first time, you don't have your degree, you're not going to make an officer. You're never going to be an officer. I thought to myself, okay, well, there's
like,
a motivator.
Hold my beer.
I didn't know annual awards were the key. Yeah. Because like I said, looking through all those packages, there was a silver bullet. There were MAGCOM level award folks that weren't getting selected, and they were, like I said, brand new folks to the Air Force getting picked up. So there was no silver bullet. I kept going, and for a while I thought about the ROTC route. To be honest with you, when I got picked up to be a recruiter, I thought, well, my buddy at the time was going through ROTC just down the road, actually, at Indiana State, and I thought, well, I'll just follow in his footsteps. He's killing it. I could do that. And I'm a very black and white person in terms of making like a pro and con list. And my worry was, this is how my mind works. Like, what if I get in a horrific car accident and I can't finish ROTC and I'm out of the Air Force and I have no medical coverage? I don't have my degree. What am I going to do? How am I going to make a living? And I was so terrified of little things like that happening that I chose, okay, the safest route for me to pursue this dream. Go be a recruiter, crush it like I had been in my regular job already, and apply to OTS. Because you're playing with house money at that point, whether they pick you or not. I'm still keeping my job. I'm still promoting. I still made, E7 my first shot out at the gate at that. while I was putting my package in, and I was fortunate to do that. But I worked hard and I stuck with it, and I studied a lot because it was still PME only at the time. So that PDG, just every night before bed, read a couple chapters and hope for the best. So I think boil all that down. Perseverance just means going with your heart and not letting outside influences, personal, professional, or even just anything, having a bad day a couple days in a row. Don't let that get you down and get that goal out of your sight window, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. And that's huge. The talking heads are going to do what talking heads do. They're going to talk, and there's a lot of people around us every day. They're telling us things. There's even people in our ears telling us how great we are. You can't even take that for what it's worth. Sometimes, you got people telling you that you're not going to achieve X, Y, and Z, and you're only going to go this far. Or if you knew how many times I've been told that, hey, or given my limit or what line I was going to be able to make it to, or what my ceiling was going to be, had I listened to those people, I would not have been able to achieve some of the milestones that I have. So good on you for persevering and being able to decipher what you wanted to based on what everyone's telling you. And, I don't think I'm just learning something about you. I don't think I realized you said you had made it all up to E7 before you became an officer, huh?
Yes, sir. Found out, I think I found out I was selected to OTS in March and found out in June I was at E7. So the LT in my unit at the time kept calling me Lieutenant Master or Master Lieutenant. And I'm like, hey, I just got to get to officer school before they realize what they done. They finally got me. I got to go.
That's awesome. I appreciate you for pushing through and, honestly coming on and just sharing your story and showing people, hey, don't tell. We have a lot of similarities, by the way. It's some of those things people are telling you what you can or cannot do, even with the application packages and things like that. And OTS is an example. Becoming an officer is an example, but we hope that people will utilize that as something to cling on to say, well, he overcame his obstacle, and so can I, and that could apply to the military or not. So for you, you persevered through people telling you what you can and cannot do. You persevered through the application process of being told no a couple of times before you finally got the answer yes. Based on what I just read, you persevered through a childhood, so to speak, that probably wasn't the most desirable situation, so on and so forth. So I imagine there's some other personal stories in your life that you've persevered through that obviously you can't tell every single aspect of every part of your life, but I know for a fact there's probably one that jumps out at you. So if you had to think about what is the life challenge that you've had to persevere through the most, that stands out the most, that was the most significant into your life, if you had to boil that down, what do you think it would be?
That would be 2020 was a rough year for a lot of people. I was in a marriage that was very unhappy, and that was my own doing. I chose to use alcohol while I was, at home most of the time and all that. And a lot of people have that issue in the military. It's a common thing, but not to the extent that I did. It was shameful. I had a bit of a stomach ache on New Year's Eve. It was actually my birthday. I went to the hospital, and I woke up 13 days later to my father, who had come down from Indiana.
Wow.
My at the time wife had left. And she had left and gone back to Georgia. It was at that point the marriage was over, obviously. So I woke up and I see my dad, and I'm like, "Well, what's going on? What year is it? What day?" And I had gone through that, and I went through inpatient as well. My leadership at the time was amazing. They called me. They're like, "Hey, are you okay? What do you need to get back on track? How can we help you?" So I need to go, get this right and figure it out. And I went through that 30 days, and during that time, I was getting, the divorce was starting the process to happen with that. And then, that brief 4-month period, I had very, very really cheated death. There were paddles in my room for 36 hours. They said my heart rate was, 180 going up to 220. It was very, very bad. The first couple of days I was there, I had no idea. Of course, I was out. But I'm being told all this by the medical staff and all that later. So it's very close to death. And then I'm in the treatment facility afterwards. The divorce is starting. I lose my dogs. I lose a car. The old chestnut, the country song. That's what it was for 4 months, and it was just absolutely catastrophic. Came out of that. Leadership was excellent, very supportive, get me the help I needed. Absolutely no issue with alcohol after that. It was just, it was a coping mechanism that went way too far for me. And that's a story that it's probably been talked about a lot in military circles, but not everyone can come out of it on the other end and make it through. and turn around and try to help others get to the help they need and refer to ADAPT, et cetera, which is a great program. And it's there to help. Don't be afraid to go. For anyone out there who has issues with alcohol, ADAPT will help you. Civilian, Alcoholics Anonymous is also great. But at the end of the day, there has to be that drive to want to change and to want to fix yourself. I think my experience obviously was quite drastic. So I got through that, and my next sight picture, I said, okay, I'm coming up for an assignment. How do I go elsewhere? Leadership talked to me, sat me down very, very directly. Hey, after what you just went through, are you of the mindset for this or that? How can you thrive? How can we get you over this? And that's kind of how I ended up in this job. I was given a second chance, if you will, to succeed and to chase my other dream, which was this job. Very fortunate. I think personal life wise, I can't imagine it could have been much worse, that 4-month window. But I kept a smile on my face and kept going. And I hope no one has to go through that, especially the waking up to your father and you're like, well, where's my wife? Well, she has departed. So yeah, I kind of just chuckled. I was like, okay, well, I guess that's that. What's the next step here?
Wow.
When do I get out of here?
Wow.
I can look back on it and laugh now, but
sure.
Yeah.
Listen, first of all, thank you for being humble enough to share your story. You did not have to do that, and you chose to do it because you are at a position right now, as you mentioned, where you could look back at it and laugh. And the fact that you are here today to actually be able to look back at it and laugh, I think is a win for all of us. I'm happy you're here. I'm sure that your new family is happy that you're here. And I think that is a big deal. To me, that is the epitome of perseverance. I did not know that you were going to share that story, which makes it even more real for me. And I'm very happy that you did, because that's what this platform is for. It is for folks to highlight some of the ups and downs that they have been through to help other people be able to go through some things in the future or the present. So thank you again for sharing that. And I'm glad that you're able to sit here in front of me today and kind of be a display of perseverance. One of the things you mentioned when you were telling me your story was that not everyone could make it through, and you did, right? And so my question to you, because I'm sure the answer could benefit a lot of people, would be, well, how? How did you do it? How did you make it through? What was it that gave you the drive to be able to make it through? You lost your wife, your dogs, everything in your life that you had been working so hard to achieve, to accomplish, to garner. All of it seemed to just kind of be going away from you. How did you do it?
Mm-hmm. I think the reality of the near-death experience, in my case, was an excellent motivator, as well as my family. I leaned on my stepmother and my father very, very heavily during that time. I must have called her 10 times a day as I was, piecing my life back together. I had come home and all my stuff was in one room in a pile, and I had a lot of stuff to do to get my life back in order. I think the biggest thing that kept me going was just the desire to take this second chance and run with it, and to not fall into previous traps, or not pursue a relationship like that ever again, or not allow myself to not reach out for something as simple as therapy, which was available. And instead, I chose to sit on the couch and drink my vodka Dr. Pepper, and I thought that was okay. It was not, nothing is good in excess, right? I think what kept me going was just the desire to make the most of this second lease on life, if you will, to put that behind me and excel in other ways, as well as I realized I had a lot of life left in me. And as close as I got to losing out on that, and how upset and sad my family would have been, my friends, my loved ones that I still had in my life, that would have been horrible to do that to them. And I thought, well, you cheated it once, don't do it again, and move forward and live life to the fullest. I know that's a cliche, but it was the truth. I looked at everything differently for that whole first year afterward. It was kind of like experiencing everything for the first time again. And I think that really helped motivate me to stay on the path to sobriety, as well as the path to healthier choices, to mental health being first and foremost, to proceeding with setting up a life plan drastically altered. Hey, this 5-year plan is out the window. What's my new 5-year plan? What's my 10-year plan? How do I help others to avoid the pitfalls that I fell into? And social media has been a big part of that for me as well. I mean, there's Reddit is a big resource for a lot of folks. And there's been many, many posts on there. Folks, hey, I think I'm drinking too much. What can I do? And the amount of private messages I sent those folks, like, hey, you just give me your base. I'll get you their phone number here. I'll get you in contact with ADAC. You can give me a call. I'll block my number, whatever you need. And there's been a lot of people that I've talked to, and it's kind of a shot in the wind, or you don't hear back. And then there's been other people that, 6-7 months later have reached back out and like, hey, thanks for closing the circle with this. I got the help I needed. Blah, blah, blah. And to me, I guess that is my motivation. I enjoy helping people, even people I'll never know, just some random handle on the internet. If I can get them to help and they don't go down the path I did, I guess that's me kind of paying it forward with this new lease on life to help avoid the pitfalls that I made.
Wow, Dan, that's huge, man. Do you realize, like, even as you talk right now and I listen, like intently listen to you right now, do you realize like how much power you have right now? Like being able to help other people, does it resonate with you?
I don't think so. I just kind of look for opportunities to help folks like that. I don't want anyone to end up like I did in that situation, either personal life and help with professional stuff as well. That's a big part of it. And I keep going back to Reddit, but that's a huge resource community of help. And there's people helping each other with all sorts of stuff on there every day. I just like to lend my voice to it because there's a lot of people on there that help others. And I think that's the positivity of that community and subset of the internet, if you will, because we all know the internet has a lot of bad places to go. And Reddit seems to be
Absolutely.
a source of positivity and help.
Absolutely.
And the way I look at it, if my story could be taken as, wow, you did that to yourself. And it's, nobody gave you that, told you to get married. Nobody gave you a bottle of vodka and told you to go wild. This is all your fault. Some could look at it that way. I think the better way to look at it is we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all sin. None of us are without sin. And the way you come back from that is to try to prevent others from slipping down the path that you went down. Because if I had someone had helped me, I wouldn't have slid right down that path. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So to be that difference, even for a completely random stranger, I think is a big motivator for me, just to help.
Wow. Very good, man. Very good. I'm a firm believer, and some don't agree with this philosophy, and nor do you have to. But I am a firm believer, always have been, in that everything happens for a reason, good, bad, or ugly. I believe that everything happens in our lives for a reason. Sometimes it may take some time for us to figure out what that reason is. It may take a week. It may take 5 days. It may take 5 years. But I believe that things happen in our lives for a reason. So having said that, you've gone through some trials and tribulations. You came out on top. You've said on a couple of occasions since we've been talking today that you cheated death. And I take that and I flip it in my head to say that you won at life. And so ultimately, I wonder if you had to answer the question, after having gone through all the things you've been through, including the story you just shared, how do you think that your life would have turned out had you not gone through some of those trials and tribulations?
I think I would lack a distinct sense of appreciation. And again, it sounds cliche, but to appreciate the small thing, the way your coffee tastes in the morning, smile on my new family, if our 4-year-old smiled at me, just little things like that. I think it made me a stronger person to go through all that. It sets the bar for, we always joke about embracing the suck in the military, embrace the suck, I'm living the dream. And we use all these phrases. But when your bar goes from, this is a normal window of acceptable, bad, good, to, okay, this is now down here and this is a good day. I think it makes you appreciate the middle ground more and more. So even a bad day, I can joke because I have a very dark sense of humor. If you can't tell, I can joke and say, hey, you know what? I forgot how to park my car today going into work and I got in a fender bender and my insurance rate just doubled. Cool. At least I'm not in a coma,
There you go. There you go.
You turn it around into a positive thing and you kind of laugh at yourself, because at the end of the day, life is too short to, not try to laugh at every chance you get.
That's right. I completely agree with that.
So I think I would be a weaker person not going through all that.
The fact that you are able to find reasons to smile and laugh and find some joy, even in some of those situations that would probably break most people, is a huge skill and a trait to have that I think you've been able to develop based on your perseverance. And I think that's what is giving you the superpower that you have today. So I ask you a question flat out. Number one, out of the gate, are you happy? And if so,
Yeah.
What is making you the happiest in your current life?
It's a deep question, but it's a simple one at the same time. I am very happy. I've never been happier at my day job. Never been happier in my personal life, especially my new family. Got married in June, as I was telling you earlier. I'm now a stepfather to two beautiful girls. Some days are better than others with kids, as always. But I think what's making me happiest is the family dynamic and knowing that we're starting a new chapter this summer. PCS season is upon us. We're all going to move together, start over fresh somewhere together. New schools for the kids, new job for me, new career opportunities for me, new job for the wife. And I'm excited to share that because previous PCSs on your own, it's kind of easy. You throw the Xbox in the trunk and you hit the road and you show up at your new duty station. This is going to be great. I am very happy. Probably the last year and a half since I met my wife have been some of the happiest times I've ever had in my life. And I look forward to the future because I hope to end up like you and your wife. You said earlier, 26 years is absolutely incredible. And if she can put up with me for that long, like you said, well, she deserves it all. She'll get the car, the bouquet, pick the house, I won't hold her back from going to TJ Maxx to decorate, whatever she wants.
I tell you what, if you keep saying positive, great things about her on platforms like this, for her to be able to like play back over and over and over again, I think that she will put up with you for as long as you can tolerate.
I bought myself some karma here. I forgot to take out the trash, but remember when I was on Sensation Nation, the nation's greatest podcast, and I said,
play it back at 25 minutes and 13 seconds. Just remember that. That's good. It's forever on the interwebs. The ones and zeros don't lie. Listen, man, it's good to see you smile. It's good to see you're happy. It's good to see a true living example of what it means to persevere, what it means to overcome, what it means to come out on the other side and to be there to help other people who may be dealing with some difficulty. So that takes me to my last question with our conversation today. It's an opportunity for you to provide any closing thoughts, any advice, any recommendations you may have for anyone that may be struggling with some difficult times, trying to figure out how to persevere through what they're going through. The same way that you do it, in private messages and reaching out to folks and things like that. You're on an elevator. Someone brings up the fact that they're struggling. They're trying to find ways to persevere, and you have a minute or so to kind of talk to these people. What do you tell them?
Don't be afraid to reach out for help. I think we talk a lot about that, especially in the military side of things, always reach out for help, but friends, family are always going to be there for you. And if I had reached out and been brutally honest with my family, especially, or some of my closest friends, it would have changed the outcome of a lot of the situations to the point where I might not even have been in those situations if I'd have reached out for help. I think don't ever discount your fellow man or woman. We're all human beings together. And if there's people in your life that you've been friends with, I like this about the military. I have friends I've deployed with back in 2010, 2008, 2009. I could call them right now and I'd be there for them, and either vice versa. So I think never discount the ability of those closest to you to help you no matter how bad things get. And if you feel that you're slipping or you feel that you need a motivation to keep your perseverance up or pursue this goal, reach out to your friends and just ask them to be a sounding board. If your friends are like mine, they'll probably mock you a little bit, give you a hard time, and then tell you, yeah, go for it, man. Why are you even asking? Just don't ever doubt yourself. And then I have other friends that would call right away and be like, why? Yeah, well, you got to do this. They're not going to give me all the jokes that my other closer friends will, but they'll still tell me the path to take. So I think anyone dealing with mental health stuff, where there's resources, get to them sooner rather than later. That feeds into a larger problem and across the military, not to touch on suicide, but that is a real problem in the world, period. And then getting to mental health sooner might help with that. Same with alcohol abuse issues or going to ADAPT. They're not going to hurt your career. They're not going to hurt you. Walk into the office, tell them brutally honest, I've been lying on my PHA for 10 years. I'm not drinking one beer a night. I'm drinking 12. Get the help you need. It won't hurt your career. Do it before you hurt yourself, hurt your family, or God forbid, hurt someone else on the road just trying to get home from work. And in terms of career stuff, there is really no limit to what you can accomplish. And the more people that tell you that you can't do something just feeds into your motivational fuel to show that you can. It put gas in my tank many times. The more times I heard it's going to be difficult, it's going to be rough, there's a lot of paperwork, just put more gas in my tank, and I hit the throttle and pushed forward even faster. I'm like, oh, it's paperwork. I do enough of that. I'll figure it out. Don't let a couple forms stand between you and chasing your dreams, no matter how convoluted and confusing they are, because you know that they can be.
Right.
Yeah,
very good. Very good, man. I'm not just gassing you up here. Seriously. Very good. I'm very proud of you for where you are today. I'm very proud of you for being able to exhibit such high levels of perseverance. And more importantly, I'm very proud of you for your willingness to be an open book and to be humble and to share your story, especially knowing that it's going to help other people like myself as well. None of us are exempt from challenging parts of our lives. We will all go through trials and tribulations at some point. It's just a matter of how we come out on the other end. So I really appreciate you for sharing. Listen, before I let you go.
Thank you for having me on here. It's been wonderful to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't want to let you go just yet. I've got one thing that I like to do at the end of each show. I'm not sure if you've seen these or not, but I've got 10 questions. It's a game I like to call What Do You Prefer? Some of the topics that we talk about on Sensation Nation are serious topics. Some of them are fun topics. Some of them are topics to leave you thinking. But I also like to leave everyone on a really high note after they've processed a lot of good information that will help them. And this one is just a simple game that I will ask 10 questions to you, and you just tell me, what do you prefer? Are you ready?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right. Number one. Would you rather win the lottery or land your dream job?
Lottery.
Okay. Number two.
No job needed.
There you go. Somebody asked me earlier. Nah, I won't give it away. Someone did ask me though. They were just like, well, how much is the lottery? Question number two. Test the waters or dive in the deep end?
I can't swim. Test the waters.
Oh, there we go. Number three. I think I know the answer to this one, especially with the subject that we're talking about today. Glass half full or glass half empty?
Glass half empty, working on making it the other way.
Ooh, okay. Number four, ketchup or ranch?
Depends what we're putting it on. I put ranch on my pizza.
You've heard, wait a minute. Ranch on your pizza? I guess I can't knock it. I might have to try it, man. I might have to try it. Question number five, night or morning?
Morning.
Morning it is. Number six, passenger or driver?
Driver.
Number seven, city or countryside?
Countryside.
Countryside. Number eight, lose sleep or skip a meal?
Skip a meal.
Skip a meal. No, you'll skip that ranch on your pizza and say, I'd rather do that.
Yeah, get an extra hour of sleep.
Number nine, shopping online or shopping in store?
Oh, online.
So much more convenient, I know.
Yeah.
Number 10, last but not least,
right.
Start work late or leave work early?
Leave work early.
Leave work early. Hey, listen, Dan, thanks for playing the What Do You Prefer? But more importantly, thanks for coming on to share your story. It's been honestly just an absolute honor to have you on here and to hear your story firsthand for the first time. I heard it for the first time, just like our listeners did. So again, I appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. And your question game at the end that's a lot of fun. I like that.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you learned something from Dan's story today. You can overcome. You can persevere. There's ways to do it. So just keep pushing, keep fighting the fight. Until next time, I'm Sensation Nation. I'm out.